John Divine G. Whitfield, wrongfully incarcerated for 25 years, is the inspiration behind the Oscar-nominated film Sing Sing.
To die, to sleep, to dream.
This is a clemency hearing for your conviction, 25 to life. Since you've been in custody, you've been involved in a theater program.
Gentlemen, let's go. It's been a program that was established to help people get more in touch with their feelings and truly get some rehabilitation.
I am Gladiator Goliath. I am Spartacus.
I'm Prince Hamlet of Denmark.
And it's turned into something of, wonderful.
What part do you play?
From time to time I do act, like we all do.
So are you acting at all during this interview?
We here to become human again and enjoy the things that is not in our reality.
I think you guys are becoming real with each other, vulnerable.
Listen, I already know what you're doing, know who you are, what you about, bro.
What?
You don't get to tell me what I need in prison. You don't get to do that. And don't bring me in those dark corners no more.
The world expects brothers like you and I to walk in with our heads held down. Nah, what you gotta walk in like a king. Everything is yours.
I'm divine now.
Yeah.
This is my theater.
Now give him some love, give him some love.
Go to your most perfect spot. Do you hear anything? Are you with somebody? Are you outside? Hold that feeling.
Right. 1, 2. Let's go!
You gotta admit that I murdered that Hamlet, bro. Shakespeare is in his grave right now. He rolled over.
You did your thing, beloved.
I first met Divine when he was still behind bars, and his extraordinary and inspiring story of courage and resilience is amazing. Welcome to the Living with Inner Elegance podcast, and I am absolutely delighted to be joined this evening by Divine G himself. Welcome, Divine.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you. So glad to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. I am so happy. I know how busy you are these days to have you here. So it's just fantastic. And thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to take you back to when we first met, which was in March of 2011.
Yeah.
And I was producing the play Bullpen in the Woodbourne prison.
Right.
And I had never had an experience like that ever. You know, I'm an English lady. I haven't been in too many high security prisons in New York. And I remember going in to meet the troupe. I didn't know what to expect. And I met you.
Jesus! I don't know what's taking my lawyer so long.
Maybe they forgot about you, bro.
No, Loco. The people in my life will support me. Full of shit.
You know, I just love to bug you. Why don't you sit down and give me a headache? Why don't you dole out some of that bank money? Hey, Asher! Hey, Asher! What? I can't wait to go back to the joint. Prison. That's my home.
Come on, Loco. That's ridiculous. Thoroughly irresponsible.
I'm as good as our responsibility gets.
And I remember we got into this really deep discussion about Shakespeare's Macbeth and how you stage that play and the themes and the symbols and, all of that kind of stuff. And when I came out, I thought, what just happened? Who is this man? And then I realized that you had books that you published on Amazon. And I realized and learned that you were wrongfully incarcerated. So let me take you back to March of 2011. In that 25 years of horror, where were you at that point?
Well, at March 2011, I was basically on the tail end of my incarceration. Remember, I had did 25 years in prison for a crime I didn't commit. I was released in 2012. That was my first parole board appearance. And despite maintaining my innocence, they cut me loose. But several years prior to that, as the movie Sing Sing depicts, I had appeared before a special clemency parole board hearing that was ordered by Governor Elliot Spitzer, who was considering me for a full pardon based on actual innocence, the evidence in my case.
It's been a program that was established to help the population with management skills. And it's turned into something a bit more, wonderful, because it helps people get more in touch with their feelings and able to process and actually move through and truly get some rehabilitation.
So are you acting at all during this interview?
Absolutely not. I truly hope that you can understand that I've been very sincere. I know how meaningful this is. I would never, actually that's not the intention of acting. Acting is just a, process.
I read about the program. It's a good program.
And at that point, my journey was basically, I'd done the whole 25 years. And I had just come to the realization that in our society that there are just certain injustices that you just can't change. And it is what it is. So my whole mission was to, okay, I have to be here. So I have to make the best of a bad situation. I have to take lemons and try to turn it into lemonades. And one of the things that I did is I just went on an all-out mission to try to empower other people, help myself and help others. And I was the president of the NAACP organization and sponsored, hundreds of cultural awareness classes and, Black history classes and so forth. So it was all about trying to find a way to make that experience for other individuals more empowering, to use it as a vehicle to make sure that, when people got out, they didn't come back. Because I had this thing when I was, incarcerated that it used to break my heart to see guys come back.
Sure.
It was like, I'm trying to get out, guys are coming back. So it was like, wow. And one of the reasons in which we created RTA was to give people learning skills, life skills, educational components that they can use so that when they got out, they stayed out. I don't know if you know this, but RTA right now has a recidivism level of 3%. That means that only 3% of anybody who RTA touches, they come back to prison in comparison to the 60% of individuals that don't have access to these type of programs that come back. National average, you can look this up. They got it all documented. 60% of most people that have been incarcerated come back to prison. But with RTA, we have a 3% recidivism level. And when we created this program as a founding member, I was kind of hard pressed on that issue. And we got to find a way to give these guys skills so that when they got out, they didn't come back. And RTA is just not about teaching people how to become actors. It's not about teaching, how people to become better writers or better, artists or whatever may have you. Because RTA doesn't just deal with theater. We deal with acting, writing, dancing, anything that deals with art. That's what RTA specializes in. But it's not about just making better actors and better dancers or better this. It's about teaching individuals life skills. Because I'm going to tell you something. Arts, I describe as an explosive expression of humanity. You infuse arts into a situation and you will be amazed the results that you get, how people will put their guards down and will come in and open up and feel comfortable and share and empathize with one another. Because that's what we need. We need a lot of love in this place right about now. We need a whole lot of that.
Yeah, we do. We do need a whole lot of love. And how did you know the arts in that kind of environment was going to somehow be helpful, or you had a kind of idea that it might be as a founding member of RTA?
Oh, no, not these guys! Can't you take me to a little cell?
The one with that view is taken.
I wonder what he's doing back. Something must have gone very wrong with his plan. Look, he's taking off his tie. He threw that shit away. He must really be upset. What you doing back here, man? Look, don't start. I'm not trying to come down on you. I just want to know what happened. It was so much fun yesterday. I thought we'd do it again.
Well, be advised that I've been involved in arts practically my whole life. I mean, as you may know, I was a famous DJ in my community in Canarsie.
Yes, I did know
Brookline,
that.
Canarsie. Yeah, in the 70s, I was one of the first DJs in Brookline houses. So that's entertainment. It wasn't per se art, but it was entertainment. Also, I was a popular dancer. I danced on television with Stephanie Mills, Instant Funk, Anita Ward. I was with a group called Realism, and I was really good at that dance. And this was before breakdancing even came out.
Oh, that's so cool.
We used to call it freestyle. So I was a dancer. Actually, I went to high school performing arts because of my dancing. High school performing arts, as you may know, was one of the most famous schools as far as creative and acting and dancing is concerned. It's the Fame School.
It's the Fame School, that's right.
And it's in the movie.
Sure, yeah.
So I've always had that element of entertainment in my life that was always a part of me just growing up. It was just, even when I was even a little taller, 8 years old, my parents used to have these little parties and they used to have me dancing and, for the adults. And it's just something that was always in my life. And one thing that I always noticed, that when I was a DJ and when I was playing my music and how I saw individuals dancing to the music that I was playing, it made me feel good and it made them feel good. So I kind of just knew that arts and entertainment and making people feel happy was something that I gravitated to. So when I saw this idea that we were, wanted to do the arts, I said, oh yeah, this is something that we can use. So it was a no-brainer for me. Absolute no-brainer. I said, man, we can use this instrument as a way to empower people. And when we created this program, we strategically navigated it for that purpose.
Yeah. Which prison did RTA begin in? Was it in Sing Sing?
Yes, it was in Sing Sing. It was in Sing Sing in 1996 is when we first did a play. It wasn't actually RTA didn't exist at the time in 1996. It was just a bunch of individuals that we decided to do a play. First play was Reality in Motion. It was a phenomenal success.
Wow.
It had an impact on us. It had an impact on the population. It had an impact on the administration. And, it was just breathtakingly successful. And we did another play. It was a play that it was called A Night of Theater. And we had a few vignettes of 3 different stories or whatever. And it was a success. And again, it was like, we got something going on here. And we decided at that point, we need to turn this into a program, a structured program. And me, as a result of the fact that I was already the president of the NAACP and involved in grievances, and throughout my incarceration, I've always been involved in certain programs and the administrative processes of all that. So I said, let's make this a structured program. And we tossed around some names and tossed around this. And we came up with the name Rehabilitation Through the Arts. And that was the creation of RTA at Sing Sing.
Yeah, it's kind of an incredible story. I know that in the movie Sing Sing, there is a certain amount of skepticism about joining the theatre people from maybe some of the inmates. Did you find it hard to sell inside to get people into the theatre troupe?
Well, actually, believe it or not, we had lines of individuals that wanted to get involved in the program. It wasn't like we had to go out and bend people's arm to get them to come on in there. People were really enthusiastic about trying to get on that stage and do what we were doing. And as you can see from the movie, with Divine Eye's character, he was the guy running around drug selling, carrying knives and all that. That's standard operating procedure in those environments. Even he applied for the program.
Some of the things the brother was saying in the book really resonated with me, man. I mean, the brother said, he said, when we are born, we cry because we're born to a stage of fools. And I said, yo, whoever wrote this, man, had to did a bed before, you know?
So, King Lear just fell off of a library cart and you just happened to pick it up and read a few pages.
Yeah, shit funny, right?
We'll be in touch.
All right. Stay up. Okay. He knows verse.
Yeah.
And actually, I used to encourage him, yo, come on down and get with the program because, he actually taught one of my NAACP classes, one of my cultural awareness classes. So I used to come into the classes that I sponsored as the president. I would have to monitor these classes and make sure that they were being, handled correctly. So I sat in on one of his sessions. I was like, this guy's pretty intelligent. He got some skills here. He's not just your regular yard bandit running around with knives and just selling drugs. And then I saw his potential, and I used to try to encourage him to come into the program, and he did eventually come into the program. But in a nutshell, the program was just designed to take individuals just like him and use the skills of the arts to make people understand that us coming together and helping each other, that's a lot of empowerment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thinking about you and your story, I'm endlessly fascinated by how you developed that kind of backbone and resilience that you needed to turn a catastrophic situation that happens to a young man. His life gets taken away from him. And what do you think it was, maybe, or was it in your upbringing, or was it something that you later brought to the table that allowed you to forge forward in that way and not end up angry and disillusioned and, wanting to just throw up your hands in horror? What was it, do you think, in you that gave you that certain something, that ability to be resilient?
I guess because of the fact that, I was a DJ, I danced on television, I've done a lot of productive things even before, going to prison. And I knew, in essence, that if you really, strive and stay focused and, you put the work in, you roll your sleeves up and put that work in, things can change. You can change a situation. And I just never gave up, And the fact that, I found the evidence of my innocence, and it was just like I found overwhelming evidence of my innocence. An audio tape of the guy, exonerating me, a woman eyewitness who saw the actual shooters. I found out that the guy who testified against me was a crack addict who cooperated in 5 other it was just overwhelming. I could rattle off evidence after evidence. And then the courts was just rubber stamping all this. It was just shocking. But then I realized that racism exists in our country. Black folks don't get a lot of justice in this country. So I had to wake up to that reality, like, this is just the structure of the country. We're here. It is what it is. Now, You rolling over and getting upset and getting angry is not going to make the situation any better. Now, what you have to do is take this bad situation and somehow, some way, turn it into a positive and do something. And I wrote 13 novels, 12 screenplays. I was a published author. I had 5 published works from a prison cell. So I took that energy and said, I'm going to do everything in my power to make myself better and make others better. I'm going to take this negative and somehow, some way, and turn it into a positive.
Now, give him some love, give him some love. All right, that's it. All right, now, what's your emotional state? What's underneath that?
Mad as a motherfucker.
Okay, no, okay. Anger is the easiest thing to play. Am I right, Brent?
Too easy.
What's more complicated is to play hurt. That helps you name the thing, all right? Now try that. All right.
From the top.
There you go, Brent.
And for all said and done, it ultimately turned out I got a movie out, I've done this. So it's like, when you set yourself to say that, okay, I've been wronged. It's an injustice. I have options. I can get angry, get frustrated, wallow into it and do nothing. Or I can just take this bad situation and turn it into a positive. And I strive to do that.
I think it brings us back to that whole point about we all have choice, right? No matter our circumstances. And I do think that a lot of people don't realize that. If they're not very aware of the fact that the choice is there to make about whether they make the decision to try harder every day to strive, or whether they just succumb to being angry, there is this whole idea of we have choice. We have choice with every action that we take, every word that we use, and also those words that we use in our own minds, right? Where we have this voice that goes on saying, are you crazy? You're going to try in here when, it's all impossible. And I think a lot of people just see their external circumstances as what dictates their lives. And one of the things that struck me when I met you all in Woodbourne is that the guys I met in there were all of that mind of we have the choice here to do better, to strive, to be disciplined. And boy, were they. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never worked with people who were so quick off the mark with their lines, 3 understudies for every role. I mean, just phenomenal, phenomenal discipline. And on top of all of that, just this fantastic sense of humor.
Actually, you actually need humor in those dire situations. I mean, without humor and without that ability to connect with that element of your life to say that, okay, this is a bad situation, but you got to find a way to find some kind of, ability to just even laugh at it. I mean, that just gives you that element of just, to maintain your sanity, because in those places you can easily lose your sanity because those places are brutal. They're violent. There's, the oppressive nature, the loneliness. Prisons are prisons. Prisons in New York State are designed to punish, and they do very well at it.
This is crazy. That's the guy that was in the joint with me. And that's the cocaine selling white guy. And you with that gavel.
Shut your telling ass up. You won't get your chance to speak. Your turn come.
You're my lawyer. Ain't you going to defend me?
Your Honor, I remove myself from this case because this guy is an arrogant pain in the ass who doesn't deserve to be defended. The guy's guilty. Let's throw the book at him.
Yeah! Settle down. We're going to have a fair trial here, people. And then we're going to throw the book at him.
Yeah!
Well, don't I at least get a lawyer?
Sure. Defense attorney.
That's me! It's okay, bro. Yo soy su abogado.
I will say this, that we have choices. And if you're a good person at heart and you know this, you can't let that environment transform you to turn your heart bitter. And that was one of the things I knew that I had to do. Because once I found all that evidence of my innocence, I went to these courts. I was doing a lot of it pro se. I don't have money. I had to do it by myself. I just unfortunately, we don't have certain, financial resources.
Sure.
And it was rubber stamping and stuff, rubber stamping. And it was just so the frustration, the pain, the tears, the nights of crying and, just saying, wow, they're going to do this to me. But, I'm not the only one that experienced injustices. It happens. It is what it is. It's the nature of our country. Black folks don't get a lot of justice in this country. It is what it is. And once you realize that, you say, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I eventually became a writer. I had no idea I was a gifted writer. I had no clue, no idea I was a writer. When I wrote my first novel, a piece called Divine Intervention, and let a few people read it, they were like fascinated. And I kind of was, oh man, this stuff is kind of good. And next thing you know, I wrote another. Then I started trying to get them published and then got them published. And I had publishers telling me, I read your piece and you're one of the first, writers that we didn't really have to do a whole lot of heavy editing. Because what I did is before I actually shopped my material around, I did research on not just writing novels, I did research on how to edit the novel properly, how to do copy editing, line editing, graphic editing. I learned everything I could learn. The thing about that environment, because of the incarcerated situation, there are moments where you have time to really hone certain skills. And I mean, with me, I didn't waste time. Once I knew I was stuck, I wasn't getting out, I went on a mission. I was on a man on a mission. They used to look at me and say, look at Divine G. They used to call me March of the Wooden Soldiers because I was like, because wrongful conviction can do that.
Yeah, it gives you the fire in your belly, doesn't it?
Bring out that fire in you. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly speaking, the things that I've accomplished, I would have never done if I hadn't been wrongfully convicted. It would have never happened.
Look at that.
Sometimes it takes that fire, that wrongfulness, that injustice to bring out some things that you just don't know you have. But I will say this. When you get that fire and you get that energy, you have to infuse some kind of love and some kind of compassion and some kind of empathy in there. I knew that because that was always my personality trait. I always was what I call now that I discovered is a natural born helper. So I said, I'm not going to let this environment or the situation, change that. It's not going to sour that energy of me. And I just let it blossom even more. Never let a bad situation transform you into something negative. And I wasn't going to let that experience do that to me. And it didn't.
Were you always in prisons because I think you were in a number of different prisons in the 25 years, weren't you, in New York?
But
did they all have, did you have access to books and online stuff in all of them? Or do they not all have classrooms?
In prison, we have absolutely no access to online anything, at least when I was there. I don't know now. I heard they got these tablets of some sort. Things are changing. But when I was there, we had absolutely no access to online. But they did have access to books through what they call the interdepartment library loan system, where you can go to the library, which is a place that I kind of lived in. Library.
I think you must have lived in the library.
Everybody lived in. You see me, he's in the law library or in the library somewhere. I was always there, so I was kind of like a staple for those environments.
Right.
But they had what they call the library loan system, where I can go to the librarian. His name was Richter. I still remember Mr. Richter in Sing Sing. And he's always see me, knew me, obviously, when he see me, Mr. Divine G, whatever. And I used to borrow books from libraries all over the region. And he would just have to do a request and he can order books. So I learned how to write novels. I learned how to write screenplays. I learned how to edit. I learned even in the theater shop thing, guys was fascinated because I used to come in there and teach them all kind of techniques, like acting techniques, like Stanislavski's technique and method acting with Sloutsburg. And they was like, damn, why Divine knows all this? Because I go to the library and get all the books and read it and then share it with the guys.
Right.
So half of those individuals, most of them individuals in RTI, I actually taught them everything well, not everything, but a vast majority of things that we learned through acting in collaboration with some of the outside individuals that used to come into the facilities.
Hey, hot shit. You need a break. You got balls. Hey! What you know the war was wrong? No, it wasn't. Yes, it was. No, it wasn't. Yes, no for you. Shut the fuck up. I got something to say. Legal aid ain't shit. You want me to write it, bro?
Did you have a moment like your character is portrayed in Sing Sing, where he just loses the plot for the time being? I think Divine I gets his release date, and Divine G does not. So these two characters, and there is a moment when it's really hard to take. Did you have that particular moment in your life, or
Absolutely.
moments like it?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I've had what they call meltdowns. I mean, Sure. I'm human. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's only but so much a person can take before you have a little meltdown, but you bounce back.
Truly.
And the movie depict that, the meltdown in which it happened didn't happen per se in that regard.
Right.
But for movie purposes, it fitted. Believe it or not, I actually resisted that scene when we wrote it. We wrote it and I was kind of like, well, I wouldn't walk away from RTA. that was never my style.
Well, it's so funny because when I watched the movie, I was thinking the Divine I know would never walk away from that.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I told I told Craig, I told Clint, and when we were writing it, I said, people who know Divine G is not going to buy that scene because they know Divine G is not going to walk away from RTA. Yeah. But for purposes of the thematic, high point and the revolution, for storytelling purposes, I allowed it. Mm-hmm. But I did put up some resistance and I warned them. I said, listen, there's people who know me is going to question that scene. Uh-huh. And you question it. And I told them. And you, not just you, but everybody who knew me and who worked with me said, nah, that's not Divine G. But they all went with it. And when I saw them, they said, I know y'all put that in there because I know you're not walking away. You're too stubborn for that.
Yeah, no. It just didn't ring true to me at all. I was like, no.
And that's what I told Craig and Clint. But they said, for purposes of the movie, I said, all right, I'll go with it. But I said, people who know me is going to say they're going to question that scene. I would never walk away, not under those circumstances. Just walk away from a production? That's unheard of.
Yeah, unheard of. I know. This is like my lifeline over here. Yeah. I'm not going to do that.
Intel saw it. Shamik saw it. I can name a whole series of individuals that saw the movie and said, yo, why they put that scene in there with you walking away? We know that ain't true. I said, I know. I warned them that most people who know me know I wouldn't walk away.
Yeah, exactly.
But for the movie, it worked.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you say, you need to have an arc in a story.
Right.
One of the other things that's very interesting to me about you is this. I know that you run your life in a particular way, that actions have consequences. Mm-hmm. What you put out, you get back.
Absolutely.
And share a little bit about what happened when you left. Because I believe that your last incarceration was at Woodbourne, wasn't it? Up in the Catskills. Was that the last place you were?
Absolutely.
So that's where you were released from. And you arrived back home in Brooklyn, which must have been wild in and of itself after 25 years. I can't even imagine what that was like. Then what happened?
Well, when I got out, obviously it was a beautiful moment just being released and making it through that ordeal alive. I mean, because a lot of people don't make it through those in situations. And the craziest thing is that I had a friend that that when I was a DJ.
Right.
His name is EI. All I did is I did what I've always done when I was out there in the streets. I was always kind of like a person bending over backwards to help people or trying to empower people. And this young individual, his name was EI. When I was a famous DJ, I was a very famous DJ. I was at a group called Mix Machine. I'm the founder of Mix Machine. It's mentioned in the movie Sing Sing as well.
Right.
And I used to just let this little young guy just get my little records, him and his little sister, and he used to show off in front of his friends that he was, with Divine G or whatever. And when I got out of prison, he offered me a job. He had eventually became Lil Wayne's road manager. I knew of this when I was incarcerated. I was like, wow. Leon became Lil Wayne's road manager. He was kind of like a big celebrity.
That's cool.
He wasn't just with Lil Wayne. He did stuff with Chris Brown. He helped founded Nicki Minaj. People don't even know he helped founded Nicki Minaj.
Wow.
He's actually founded. He helped founded Drake. So he was a big time heavyweight guy in the background, but he don't like to be in the front. He's like a background person.
Right.
So he founded all these people, and when I got out, he said, hey, listen, man, he came and picked me up from one of the jobs I was at in a Rolls Royce. A Rolls Royce. He was like, yo, Divine G. I was like, what? And I got in the car, gave me some money, a couple $1,000, and, because he understood and he heard about the catastrophe that I had experienced. I was in prison for a crime I didn't commit. Everybody in the neighborhood knew it, that Divine, I didn't commit that crime. I wasn't there. I was out there hustling, but I was doing some things, but everybody knew I had nothing to do with this crime. That was not on me. And he offered me a job. He said, listen, if you want to work with the Lil Wayne's tour, it was his America's Most Wanted tour, the 2013 America's Most Wanted tour. He said, listen, if you can get on this tour, you got the job. And I would be a supervisor building stages. I had no idea about building those stages, but I said, dude, listen.
I'll learn.
I'll learn. Promise you that. I'll learn.
Yeah.
He said, bro, if you can get on this job, the job is yours. Went talk to my parole officer. Man looked at me like I had 12 heads on my shoulders.
He will never have heard a story like that.
He looked at me and said, ain't no way. His exact words, ain't no way in hell you going on no tour with no famous rapper and you just got out of prison for 25 years serving the time for murder. It's not going to happen. I looked at him. I said, well, if it don't happen, you're going to see a whole lot more of me. I promise that. I went home and immediately drew up a restraining order, which is called an injunction. It's an emergency proceeding. I mean, thank goodness I had the legal skills to do it. Drew it up, went to the court, delivered it personally myself, and next thing you know, within a week, I was in front of a judge. And while that was going on, I contacted some media people. I knew Sarah Wallace, I knew this and that, and I had reached out to a few media people, and they were interested in the story. They said, okay, I asked them, would you be interested in running this story with this? They're getting ready to deny me this job working with Lil Wayne. And it was like, oh my God. And I got two media people that were interested, Daily News and I think Newsday. It was Newsday, and they were willing. So they showed up in the courtroom and they were willing to do a story. And I told them, after talking with Lil Wayne's camp, Lil Wayne didn't want all that media attention, but he said, listen, if they don't give you the job, then it is what it is. But, once they gave me the job, it was no need to run the story. Eventually, the Attorney General bowed. They said, well, after the judge kept asking him, and now bear in mind, the judge kept asking him, you're saying you're denying this man a job because it is too much travel. Their excuse was that it was too much travel for a person who just got out of prison, for serving time for a homicide. It's too much travel. The judge kept emphasizing to them to come up with a logical explanation as to why is it too much travel?
Right.
I mean, is he a flight risk? No, I wasn't. And what really saved me with that was the fact that Governor Elliot Spitzer had granted me that clemency hearing, because that played a key role in how the judge was viewing this. He said the man may even be innocent. Why would he's not a flight risk because he's not going to run. He may even be innocent. Why would he run? But to make a long story short, they bowed and they let me go on the tour.
It's an incredible story.
They let me go on a tour.
I bet you could barely believe it.
I can believe it because I already knew that if I didn't go on that tour, I was going to file every lawsuit I can think of.
Right, yeah.
I said, listen, I'm going on this tour. I told my parole, I said, listen, one way or the other, I'm going to find a way to get on this tour. You know?
That's just incredible. So because you were looking after this young guy when, you were on the streets being, a cool DJ and stuff, and you were caring for the lives of other people, that what is amazing about that story is that he waited 25 years, kept close tabs on your story, and then pretty much the minute you came out was there for you. It's a fantastic story.
And when I was a youth counselor, I was always tell young people what you throw out into the universe, what you get back. And when it comes back tenfold.
Prosecutor, go first. Thank you, Your Honor. Are you welcome? Where were you on November 2nd? In the bullpen. You know where I was. Did you happen to meet one called Fredericks? Yes. Did you attempt to degrade him and his ideals by using physical and mental abuse? Yes, I did. Why? Because he bugged me.
That's no answer. I know you all your life. You always had an answer, so you better think about it. Because if I have to sentence your ass right now, I'm putting that ass under the jail. Continue, son.
Tell the court why you acted as you did. Because you frustrated me. I couldn't get you to understand what blackness is. Blackness? I'll show you blackness. You consider yourself an expert on blackness? I have a valid opinion. When a black man loses his identity as a result of playing the game, he is, in effect, just another white man.
The white man is not on trial here. You are. I would not permit you to turn white man in this case. This is for pigment and about pigment people. Look, whites have enough problems of their own.
I heard that shit.
Believe me, it's like I don't, intentionally go out to just do good things knowing that that's going to come back. It's just, that's, to me, it's like in my personality. But I try to emphasize to people that it never hurts to be kind to people, to give a person a little helping hand here and there, just to give up a seat to somebody, just kindness and just that helping attitude. It, for some reason, I don't want to, make it, mystical, but the will of the universe works with you when they know that your intentions are good. It helps you along the way. Because that's what happened with me. Even though I caught a catastrophic situation of going to prison for a crime I didn't commit, but despite all of the hell that I've been through, I found a way to take that massively horrific situation and twist it into something that, at least now I'm walking out, I'm Oscar nomination, I got this, certain things came back because I never allowed that experience to make me bitter, to make me hate driven and make me, frustrated and this. It was always, well, okay, it's a bad situation. How can I flip this to make it good? And it's all about trying to help people. We have to understand that if you help and you throw out that energy comes back. If you throw out hate, you get hate back.
Sure.
If you throw out love comes back.
Yeah.
And it comes back in bigger moments. In my experience, in my life, classic illustration of that fact.
Yeah, you really are a shining example of that. And I believe that you were presenting, I believe remotely, but at the Cannes International Film Festival recently.
Yeah, exactly. I was at the Cannes Film Festival. I did it remotely, of course. I mean, I couldn't go there physically. Actually, believe it or not, A24 contacted me. And they had a room lined up for me.
No.
They said, Devon, you come in there physically? I said, unfortunately, I can't go there physically. They had a room and everything set up for me. A24, beautiful, beautiful production company, man. I can't even speak about the love and the passion of how they helped Sing Sing become an Oscar-nominated movie. It was a spectacular company. But I went there and I was involved in a documentary called Disappearing Freedoms The Decline of Justice, and it's about wrongful convictions. So I was the main subject of that documentary, Disappearing Freedoms, but also there were other documentaries. It's actually, the documentary is called 3 Times Freedom, and it deals with one of the documentaries is on wrongful convictions. Another one is about the Benin situation where they were stealing artifacts from Africa and so forth. And then you have another documentary about how Wall Street was intricately involved in the slave trade. So it's 3 documentaries, and we called it 3 Times Freedom. And we premiered at Cannes. It was a spectacular moment. I wish I could have been there physically, but
I would
remotely,
imagine so. Yes,
it was good to be there remotely.
Yeah. Oh, well, congratulations on that. That's just thrilling. So where are you now with your exoneration case?
Well, my exoneration case right now, my conviction review complaint is still pending in front of the district attorney's office. They're dragging this thing out. However, right now I have a petition that's pending. It's called, you can go and check it out. It's called, it's at www.freedivineg.org. What me and my attorneys and I have decided to do, we have a petition, a website where you can go and you can read the evidence of your innocence and make your own assessment. And you can see that this is overwhelming evidence of innocence, and they just rubber stamping everything. I mean, and what we're asking, or what I'm asking individuals to do, is to go to that website, read the evidence, and sign the petition. You know, it's a simple process. You sign the petition and say that you basically want to see some justice in this case. I'm convinced that without the power of the public command, I'm not going to get any justice. If the public is not involved in this case and demanding justice, the court system is just going to keep rubber stamping. Unfortunately, we have a court system that if they can sweep things under the rug with certain cases, they will do that. In my case, that's what I'm experiencing.
What percentage of people are wrongfully incarcerated? Have they worked out those numbers?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They have a website called the registry of exonerations. You can go there and you can check it out. Right now, the registry of exonerations, the number right now is 3,675 individuals who have been exonerated since 1989.
Okay.
3,675. And the percentage of individuals in the United States that are wrongfully convicted are like 5%. Now, you say 5% is 5%. But when you're talking about 5% of 2 million individuals,
it's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people.
You know what I'm saying? That's thousands. That's thousands of people that the system knows that the margin of individuals that they know are going to be wrongfully good. It's 5%. It seems small, but when you look at 2 million, it's a lot of individuals. I'm one of those 5% that just got caught up in that whole madness. And in my case, it was the situation with the 80s. I know you may be aware of the infamous 1980s crack epidemic.
Sure.
I mean, it was a madhouse with the crack situation. So they were just sweeping individuals up. They didn't care about anything. It was, laws was suspended, rights was out the window, and crack. And, I can understand people's fear because that crack epidemic just tore down many communities. It was terrible.
It was a really brutal
It was
wasn't
really
it?
bad
Really
moment
bad.
in the cities and the country's history. It was really terrible.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're gonna throw people in prison wrongfully for just to quelch a crisis.
Right.
And then I mean, in my situation, I'm in here wrong. Cut me loose. Stop the injustice. You made a mistake.
Yeah,
Let
you
me
would
go.
think it would be comparatively simple, wouldn't you? Really?
Yeah, but it's not.
Yeah. Well, Godspeed with all of that, my man, because it's going to be a great day when you get your exoneration.
I'm hoping and praying for it.
You got it. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been such a great chat. It's You're such an inspiration to me. You're one of the most elegant people I know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching Living with Inner Elegance. If you would like to know more about an elegant life, visit carolinphipps.com. We've got podcasts, videos, and some great articles, all designed to help you lead a more elegant life. Thanks for joining us.